Hello everyone and welcome to the Constructive Criticism Network. This network is here to help you improve at Magic the Gathering at every level. From pauper leagues to top 1000 Mythic, we've got you covered. If you want to hear the entire network, head on over to our sponsor at puremtgo.com, where you can hear each and every show, each and every week, and check out their sponsor, MTGO Traders, and tell them that the CCMTG Network sent you. Now sit back, enjoy the show. From YouTube, podcasts, and more, here's this week's episode from ConstructiveCriticism.com.
Hello everybody, and welcome to episode 116 of the Common Knowledge Podcast. I'm your host Christian, and I'm joined by our co-host Brad.
Hello everybody.
Before we get too far into this episode, I just want to remind everyone that Common Knowledge and all of the podcasts on the Constructive Criticism Network are sponsored by puremtgo.com. If you would like to support the show, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the Common Knowledge YouTube channel. Check out our Patreon. With all that out of the way, let's get on with the podcast for the week.
All right. How are you, sir?
I'm great. Most of the snow is melted. Some of the back roads here are still sort of iffy, but I can take main roads all the way to work, so I'm able to get to and from work. It's increased my life quality.
Yeah. I know we talked about it before the show, but I can handle about 50 to 60 hours of being snowed in, and then I've gone insane.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have a four-wheel drive vehicle, but I appreciate them a lot more now. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. I do. My work truck is four-wheel drive. I didn't take it out a lot, obviously, because it's a work truck, but I was able to get to the office Friday with no problems. But other than that, yeah, we just stuck around the house, and granted, it was miserable and cold and icy and snowy, but thankfully we had it better than a lot of folks down south. So hope you guys are doing well down there.
Yeah, for sure. Tennessee had it pretty bad. There was one area of Tennessee, not in Middle Tennessee, but Memphis got hit pretty hard.
Did they? Okay.
Yeah. But
I don't know too many people in Texas. I know Big Blake, fan of the show, friend of the show. He lives in Dallas, but he said he didn't have too many issues. He's kind of on the same grid with some emergency services, so they typically keep the lights on in those situations.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I don't know. Yeah, honestly, my thoughts have been pretty much all around. I know one person that lives in Texas personally, and they were also not super affected outside of just not able to travel. But
Right. Yep.
I don't know. The infrastructure down here is just not prepared for that sort of thing.
No, it was sort of eye-opening. I don't know how else to put it without being negative towards any, company or people or anything of that nature. It was just sort of eye-opening how unprepared some of the resources were.
Oh yeah, definitely, for sure. That I always knew the infrastructure was probably pretty bad.
Right.
But you never really know how bad it is till you're in the middle of the awful thing.
Yeah, until it's too late.
No. On a lighter note, do you watch much TV?
I do. I don't watch a lot of trending TV, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. The one thing that was good about being snowed in was I got to watch from start to finish the first and maybe only season of An American Saga, the story of the Wu-Tang Clan.
Oh, yeah? How'd that go?
Can't recommend it enough.
Yeah, pretty good, huh?
Yeah, it was pretty good.
Yeah, I've been my list of music documentaries has been growing. I just haven't had a chance to sit down and watch them. So, that's good to know. Where is that available?
It's at least available on Hulu. I don't know of any other streaming services that it could be available on. I pretty much only use Hulu and Netflix. And,
Right.
For anime, I use Crunchyroll, but...
Okay. Yeah, we got Amazon and Hulu and Disney Plus. So we haven't jumped back on the Netflix train yet, but I'm pretty sure we will shortly. They got a lot of good stuff over there.
Yeah, well, outside of movies and stuff like that, have you been playing any Magic this past week?
I have. I've been playing and brewing quite a bit, actually. More brewing than playing, but I was able to, if you are on Twitter at all, you probably know of Alexander Weber. He's a international Brazilian, South American pauper champ, many times over. Great streams, great information, excellent pauper player. Well, I guess he hit his 3,000th YouTube subscriber. So sort of in celebration of that, he put on a free tournament over at Cards Realm. And I jumped in there kind of at the last minute. I threw together this kind of white weenie. Of course, I had to tweak it. I couldn't just take a successful list. Took that in there, got my butt handed to me. But I did stream most of it, and it was a good time. But outside of that, I've just been working on my Esper party list that I'm really worried because I'm so in love with it that once I take it to some sort of competitive level, it's just going to fall on its face and I'll be heartbroken. But it's fun.
Yeah. I don't know. Typically with brewing, in my experience, it's like riding a bike without the training wheels for the first time. You just fall over and over and over again, and then hopefully one day you learn how to not fall.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. Skin your knees up, bust your elbows, but you get right back on.
Yeah, well.
What about you?
Yeah, so I made the decision this upcoming weekend. I'll be playing in one of the two pauper challenges, probably the Saturday challenge. So
That's excellent news.
Yeah, so I've been testing out a few decks. I always start in the same place. The deck that I'm the most comfortable with is Blue-Red Fairies, as far as like the top decks of the meta. So I've started there right now. I have plans for later on in the week to probably stream a few leagues with a few different meta decks. Maybe
and that'll be on the Common Knowledge Twitch channel, is that correct?
Yeah, I'll either use that or my personal one.
Okay.
Probably my personal. Just because I'm a pretty big fan of Modern, so it'll probably be like front half Pauper, and then maybe try and sneak in some modern games as well.
No, that'd be a nice little change of pace there towards the end. Sweet.
But yeah. Currently, my testing with fairies is going okay, I guess. I've been making like silly mistakes a lot just because I honestly don't play enough Magic. I don't play anywhere near as much as I should.
Right, same here. Now, by your definition of testing, are you hopping in leagues or are you just hanging out in the practice room?
I'll mostly be playing in leagues. I might get in a few different Discord servers, most notably the Pauper Discord server, Easy Game Media Discord server, and the Pauper Guild Discord server, and see if I can find some people to stress test against.
Okay.
I spoke about it a little bit last week. I think that sometimes that can be the best way to test is find some people you trust, play the same matchup over and over again, maybe a few different matchups, and let them talk through your play.
Right.
Another way that I really like testing is hopping in a league and having like 4 people in a chat watch me play.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
We do that a lot over Discord, but it would probably be exciting to see if I could get like a few friends or whatever to watch a Twitch stream and sort of do the same thing just in a text chat.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I never really thought about that, kind of inviting the whole group to watch you play and comment on it and that sort of thing.
Yeah. Now, that being said, there's always the downside of if everybody starts arguing about every little micro decision and criticizing everything, you time out pretty much every match. And so it's like lighting money on fire to get better at Magic.
Right.
But I do that anyway, so.
Yeah, no, I am right there with you. Yeah, that's why I've been known to give away a few tickets in my time, few ticks in my time. And honestly, I'm almost just as happy with giving them away as I am playing leagues a lot of the time. If I'm not feeling it or whatever, I don't mind sponsoring somebody or paying somebody's entry fee or what have you. I just want to see people succeed, if that makes sense.
Yep. I think you even had something going on in the Pauper Guild today. There was a player playing in the challenge that if they top 16 or top 8'd, or was it top 32?
It was top 32. Yeah. One of our guys there, gals there, members there, guild members, if you will, Jackson, they said that they had a whole bunch of play points racked up, so they were going to take Tortured Existence. I believe he landed on a Jund or a black-green version, splashing red, Tortured Existence list into the challenge, and I was so excited that I told him if he top 32'd, I would add 5 tickets to his winning. But sadly, I don't think that was the case.
We'll get them next time.
It happens, yeah. I was just excited that they took it. That's excellent. Just to hear that somebody has enough confidence playing that deck to attack something like a meta or a challenge, I think that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I don't disagree. That's something a lot of the communities that I'm in, I think that's something that a lot more people should pursue, is playing those larger events.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you play a few of those and you play Magic pretty regularly, you can, I think, probably get pretty good pretty quickly. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Even the free event that I played, Alexander's event, I think when it actually started, there was a few drops right away, but I think we ended up with almost 60 players total. So that's a pretty big field. I mean, I pretty much went 1-2 drop, but I didn't stick around till the end. But it was a pretty good turnout. It's a pretty good sized field.
Mm-hmm. Especially for a free event like that, it's
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, 60 players is nothing to scoff at.
No, absolutely. Yep.
Yeah, well, I guess, we shouldn't keep people's excitement back any further. We can go ahead and get into our main topic if you want.
Yes, sir.
So this week we're going to be discussing the top 10 of something. Last time we did artifacts. This time we're talking about the top 10 white cards in Pauper.
Yep, not creatures, not spells, not permanents, just the top 10 white cards.
Yeah. Do you want to go ahead and say that there was very little agreement on the order of this list, I think,
right,
outside of maybe a few cards. So we opted not to order this. This is just the 10 cards we think are the best.
Yep.
And they're in no particular order. Whenever we get to it, I'll probably say what my top card is.
Mm-hmm.
But outside of that.
Yeah, same here. But yeah, you may notice they just go in alphabetical order, and that's about it. We didn't rank them by power or our favorites or anything of that nature.
Yeah. So do you want to go ahead and start us off with the first one?
Yeah, let's go ahead and start with number 1 of the top 10. I went ahead and chose Battle Screech. This is, we were talking about it before the show. The way we pick these cards, we try to go off face value power, if that makes sense, not necessarily, how powerful they are against certain strategies or in a sideboard or against burn or what have you. Battle Screech almost falls into that because you don't really see it outside of 1, possibly 2 decks. But it's just so powerful for what it is. It was originally an uncommon from Judgment. It got downshifted in Vintage Masters, thankfully. But Battle Screech, for those who are not familiar, is 2 white and 2 for a sorcery. You create 2 1/1 white bird creature tokens with flying. And where it's more powerful, where it's most powerful is its flashback ability. You can tap 3 untapped white creatures you control and recast that spell.
Yeah, Battle Screech is, I would say, a pretty powerful card. Like you said, It's only played in 1 or 2 decks. Typically, White Weenie might play it, and Boros Monarch might play it.
Yeah, that's where you'll see it most of the time.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just a card that provides so much value. It's pretty much in the decks that play it. For 4 mana, you're getting 4 1/1s.
Flying 1/1s, as a matter of fact.
Say it again, I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. You get flying tokens.
Yeah.
That's huge in the days of the Monarch.
Yeah, it definitely is. And I don't know, this is usually one of those cards that I think might be held back a little bit right now just because Pauper's starting to get some pretty good wraths in it.
Mm-hmm.
But, this is one of those things that when your opponent's trying to trade 1-for-1 removal for your cards, and then all of a sudden you put 4 dudes on the battlefield that aren't necessarily, none of them are better than the other, it can be pretty overwhelming pretty quickly.
Yeah, if you got a handful of edicts, Battle Screech is a nightmare.
Yeah.
But yep, that was our first pick. If you want to go ahead and take the second one.
Yeah. So the second one is Ephemerate. It costs just a plain white mana. It's an instant. You exile a target creature you control, and then return it to the battlefield under its owner's control. And then it has Rebound. I don't know how much I can say about this card, about how good it is, that hasn't already been said 1,000 times.
Yep. I think it's another one from Modern Horizons. We actually had 2 Modern Horizons back-to-back, Battle Screech and Ephemerate. I think the first paragraph on this isn't unfamiliar to Pauper. We have Cloud Shift and other effects like this, but it's really that rebound that'll get you. That's what gets you. In my experience, anyway, that's what I lose to, is that rebound. Hitting any sort of creature with a good ETB on it, you get a free spell. Anything with rebound like that, it's just another free spell, and you can't go wrong with that.
Yeah, so to my knowledge, correct me if I'm wrong, the only other flicker effect that hits multiple creatures costs 3 mana in Ghostly Flicker.
Yep, I think you are correct.
Yeah, this one hits 2 creatures for 1 mana. So, I don't know, being a whole 2 mana cheaper is really good. To me, this is probably the best white card in Pauper. I know that a lot of people, that might make them cringe just because it's not like what you expect out of a traditional white card, especially because it's mostly played in blue-based control decks or blue-based value decks. But I would say the decks that this is played in are usually pretty good decks, and then this is probably
usually
the best card in those decks.
Yeah, absolutely. And you did touch on something earlier that I think that I forget about sometimes, so I can only imagine that quite a few people do, is that the rebound it can target a completely different creature. It's not like you have to choose the same creature each time that it's cast. And that's where that extra value comes into play, I think.
Yeah, especially, and then you can also get into loops of, you can use Ephemerate to flicker, spoiler alert, another card on this list, Stonehorde Dignitary, right? And then your opponent can attack.
Right.
And then on the rebound, you can target your Archaeomancer. Then with Archaeomancer, you can pick up Ephemerate, and then you can target your Stonehorn Dignitary in the same turn, spending the same 1 mana that you spent last turn. And then all of a sudden your opponent can never attack. And you're spending 1 mana to do that every time. And then all of a sudden maybe you get 2 going, and then you can draw cards and
you've essentially ended any hopes they have of ever attacking you. Yeah, absolutely. Many shenanigans can happen with Ephemerate.
Yes, it can.
What do you think of a card, well, specifically Ephemerate, is that too strong for Pauper, or is that right about where you think we need to be?
Right now, I think Ephemerate is...
the card itself, how do you feel about the card itself? Obviously, it goes into decks that can be broken, but is it Ephemerate's fault, or is it just fine?
I think Ephemerate is probably the best, or tied for the best, at what it does.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's fine being the top level of power in Pauper. That being said, something that I care about a little bit more is the play pattern of it. I personally think that Wizards should aggressively ban things that are viewed as unfun by the majority of the community. I'm not sure that Ephemerate is there. I know that there are some cycles where people really get sick of it, but generally speaking, I think people think that the card is okay, and while the play patterns are somewhat unfun, they're not so unfun that people are going to quit the format. You know what I mean?
Right, absolutely.
But that being said, that to me would be my chief complaint with the card, is personally, I don't think it's that unfun. To me, it's no more unfun than, losing on turn 3 or 4 to some weird combo deck,
To infect.
Yeah. But I could definitely see why people wouldn't enjoy, not being able to attack, or their opponent drawing 2 cards every turn for the rest of the game, or whatever.
Right. Yeah. You said that right. Yep. I totally agree.
Yeah. So that's Ephemerate. Did you want to go ahead and hit the next card on our list, or did you have any other things to say about it?
No, that was pretty much it. I didn't even intentionally try to derail us there on the band talk, but it is what it is, as they say. Let's go on to number 3 is Guardian of the Guild Pact. We noticed a trend before we started recording that most of the cards that are going to be on this list tend to appear in roughly the same decks.
Yes.
But Guardian of the Guild Pact is a white and 3 for a creature spirit. It is a 2/3 and it has protection from monocolored. Why is protection from monocolored all that important, Mr. Christian?
Most of the removal in Pauper is gonna be monocolored.
Yeah, like 99% of it.
Yeah. Really, edicts are the only thing that's good against this. And typically this is played in decks where you're gonna be sacrificing other things.
Yep.
And then it's also just going to block some of the best creatures in Pauper for days.
For days. It'll absorb the damage. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It'll block your anglers and your boarding parties now. And yep, really, you see this in a lot of Orzhov Pestilence lists. You can crank up that Pestilence and the Guardian just kind of sits there and takes it all. And you don't lose the Pestilence because you still have a creature on board.
Yep.
It's huge.
Yeah, I don't know. It's really insane for what it does. It's never going to be like a 4 of in your deck, probably, just because how many 4-drop 2/3s can you realistically play?
Right, exactly. But 1 or 2 is a good sweet spot for it, I think.
Yeah.
And we don't, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think we have very many multicolored creatures that we're worried about, do we?
Yeah, no, it's and the ones that are multicolored that we really care about can't get past 3 toughness typically.
Right. Yeah.
Thinking Burning Tree.
Specifically Burning Tree. Yep.
But
all right. Yeah, and really Terminate is about the only direct damage that can remove it.
yeah, there's I don't know, a lot of times whenever you're dealing with Guardian of the Guild Pact, you have to do some pretty tricky stuff where, you have to attack in a way that might force them to make weird blocks.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have to play an Edict, or sometimes, you'll have 5 mana and you're playing like a Grixis deck, so you're like, I'm going to Fiery Cannonade all of your tokens away.
Right.
And then I'm still going to have to spend 2 more mana and another card to Edict away your Guardian.
Right. Yep. Yeah, it's a tough one. Once it sticks, it is very sticky.
Yes, it is.
And it used to show up a lot too in mono white lists that ran like Bone Splitter, Gift of Orzhova, things like that. Things that are either multicolored or equipment that don't have any color at all. It's really tough to block a 3/4 flyer with lifelink that has protection from monocolor.
Yep.
Not a lot you can do about that.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
Up next we have actually a piece of removal. Can't remove Guardian of the Guild Pact, but
That is correct.
is Journey to Nowhere. Cost 1 generic, 1 white. For an enchantment, whenever it enters the battlefield, you exile target creature, and basically the creature comes back into play whenever Journey to Nowhere leaves the battlefield.
Yep. I don't know that there's a whole lot to say about Journey to Nowhere. It's white's best removal, I would say. You'll see it, if not in 1 or 2 copies in a main board, you'll often see it in sideboards of any deck that can support the color.
Yeah, Journey is I don't know, it's better in some ways than some of the removal in Pauper because it's not damage based, so it can hit those big creatures.
Mm-hmm.
And it's targeted, so you don't have to rely on an edict or anything. I would actually say it's maybe gone down in equity whenever Cast Down got printed into the format.
Yeah,
Because
I would agree.
You would see Journey to Nowhere in a lot of like black-white decks or black-white X decks. And certainly Journey is still played a lot, just I would say less so.
Yeah, it's definitely not as prevalent as it once was. You are correct. I think Cast Down did have a lot to do with that.
Yeah. I don't know. Unfortunately, there's not too much to say about the card, I don't think.
I think we can move on to the halfway point here. Number 5 is Palace Sentinels. It's a white and 3 for a creature human soldier. It's a 2/4, and when it enters the battlefield, you become the monarch.
Dun,
You
dun,
become
dun.
the broken 1v1 mechanic.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I was going to say about Palace Sentinels as well. Is that, I'm not sure that Palace Sentinels is the best in the genre of 4 mana, enters the battlefield, you become the monarch. But
Right.
it has a pretty big butt. It's a 2/4. And, anything that says you become the monarch is probably one of the top 50 cards in Pauper automatically, so long as
Yeah,
it's reasonably
just with that
priced.
word on it. Yep, absolutely. And it's a human soldier if your deck cares about those creature types.
Yeah.
Not that we have very excellent tribal decks in the format that are mono white, but you never know.
Not yet.
Not yet. There will be. I will see to it.
That's what I'm saying. No, Palace Sentinels is pretty much a staple in the Boros decks. Mono white, can be played in Pestilence. If you're playing a blue-white brew, you're probably playing Palace Sentinels somewhere in the 75.
Yep, even if it's just one in the sideboard to fight against other Monarch decks, even.
Yeah, pretty much
Yep.
that. I don't know, I would say, as far as white creatures is concerned, this one, in my mind, is probably the best one. But I could see some people taking issue with that.
Yeah, I'm always kind of flip-flopping between this and Thorn of the Black Rose. I really enjoy the Death Touch. But yeah, that's really about the only difference, honestly. I like the art better on Thorn of the Black Rose, if that matters.
Yeah, I do as well. I don't know. Thorn of the Black Rose is one of my favorite cards of all time, I think, though.
Yeah, I agree with you. And thanks to Commander Legends, all these Monarch cards have fallen off the cliff of price-wise. Many of them. I'm not sure where the Palace Sentinels was. I want to say it was around the $6 to $8 mark. It's down to about 50 cents.
Yep. I don't know. I'm pretty sure it's even dropped in price a little bit in paper as well.
Sure.
So,
Yeah.
For anybody that's looking to put together a Pauper Battle Box,
Yeah,
buy
that's-
16
or-
copies of Palace Sentinels to support 4 of your decks.
Yeah. Or if you only need one of them, but if you're building a cube, I would say this is an auto include, probably a Monarch of each color.
But yeah. And then up next on our list, we have Prismatic Strands. It's 2 generic and a white for an instant. Prevent all damage that sources of the color of your choice would deal this turn. And you can flash it back by tapping an untapped white creature you control. This one's probably going to be a controversial pick. Personally, though, I think it's great. I think it's an underutilized card currently in Pauper.
I do too.
And I think as Pauper gets a little bit more aggressive, which is something that I sort of expect, we're going to see this card a lot more in sideboards and stuff like that.
Yeah, I always try to throw it in any brew I make that even splashes white. You could probably find one of these in my sideboard for sure. Even if I'm not very creature heavy, it's so versatile. You never know when you're going to need that. This plays hand in hand nicely with Battle Screech because it's pumping out all those tokens. What do you care if you tap one more to bring this back from flash this back from the graveyard? But yeah, I agree with you. I think it's highly underutilized and it's extremely powerful, especially against monocolored decks.
Yeah, and I don't know, especially one of the fun things, the favorite play with Prismatic Strands to me was always you're playing against Affinity and they get ready for a really big fling, they cast it, and you cast Prismatic Strands, and
Yeah.
bam.
You just about won the game by defending yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a great card. Great in the main deck. Great in the sideboard. Pretty functional just about everywhere.
Yeah. And then this next card that we have coming up, I think this is more of a U card than it is a me card, and I don't mean that I think this card's powerful, but this card isn't necessarily like my bread and butter as far as like cards that I'm good at playing or enjoy playing.
Oh yeah, no, I understand.
Yeah.
And I, excuse me, I actually hear that quite a bit. This one, I was expecting this one to be more controversial than uh, Prismatic Strands, but number 7 on our list is, definitely my pick. It is Seeker of the Way. It is a white and 1 for a creature human warrior 2/2 with prowess. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, it gets +1/+1. And also, when you cast a non-creature spell, it gains lifelink until the end of turn. This was first printed in Khans of Tarkir, and the first time I opened one in a pack, it became my favorite card of all time, and it still is. This, it's just so good. I love playing it. If you're in some sort of brew or some sort of deck that has greater than or equal to spells anyway, your spell count is greater than or equal to your creature count, I have no problem playing 2 to 4 of these. If you plan on being the aggressor at all, it plays very well with Battle Screech from earlier. Hit the prowess trigger, get some lifelink, and it's, I don't know, it's just great. I don't find I've made a lot of brews with blue-white prowess decks, blitz style decks where it's elusive Spellfist and Seeker of the Way and that sort of thing. But I think it's just extremely versatile and not overpowered, but I think it is obviously one of White's best creatures, in my opinion.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Seeker of the Way, like you said, pretty much if you're playing a bunch of non-creature spells and you're playing white and you want to have an aggressive slant, this should probably be one of the cards that you slot in.
Yep.
I also agree that this is probably a controversial pick, but I don't know. I think raw power, Seeker of the Way is definitely there. It just might not have found its like real home yet in the meta.
Yeah, it's surprisingly easy to play incorrectly as well. I see a lot of people, and I used to do it all the time too, where you'll load up some sort of white weenie deck or any sort of aggressive deck that's multicolored, 24, 22 plus creatures and like 6 spells. And every time you cast Seeker of the Way, you're wondering why it's not doing what it's supposed to do, or it just feels underwhelming. You really got to pay attention to the rest of your deck if you're going to play a card like this.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Don't slot it into a deck where you're playing like 40 creatures or anything.
Right, not at all. Yep. Pretty much my bar for playing Seeker of the Way is, like I said earlier, an amount of non-creature spells that is at least equal to the amount of creatures I have in the deck, if not greater. Because ideally you want that prowess trigger to go off on these turns where you're double and triple spelling. That's why it works so well with base blue decks, base red decks, sometimes, that sort of thing.
Yeah. Well, I think up next on our list is a card that is less controversial than the last two.
Yes.
That absolutely. Is going to be Core Skyfisher. For 1 generic and 1 white, you get a 2/3 flyer. Whenever it enters the battlefield, you return a permanent you control to its owner's hand. Let's just be honest, that's a terrible drawback with no upside. Nothing can ever get problematic whenever you return a card to your hand.
No, it's completely downside. This card is all downside. I don't even know why it's on the list.
Yeah, you're right. It's not like there's cards like Prophetic Prism.
No, well, there's that one, I guess, yeah. There's not other cards on this list even that it could help out.
Yeah, no, it's it's not like you get to return 1 mana white creatures to your hand that you get to replay and get clue tokens or whatever.
Yeah, I certainly don't know what you're talking about. I've never seen anything like that.
Yeah, in all actuality, Core Skyfisher has an above rate body, and in Pauper, you can take what's supposed to be a drawback and just abuse it. And you're gonna get multiple ETB triggers out of other creatures
Mm-hmm.
or artifacts or what have you, and you get a really nice body to boot.
Yep, absolutely. You see the old Skyfisher and a lot of artifact-based decks. Like you said, to get your ETB, your draws, your whatever it may produce, a token or what have you. You'll see it in a lot of decks that run things like Radiant Fountain, cycling lands. You know, you can bring them back to your hand, cycle them away, that sort of thing. Just anything that you want back in your hand or that has a really good ETB. Of course, Skyfish is just sort of a natural with that, I think.
Yeah. Of course, again, I don't think there's too much I can say about this card.
Right.
It hasn't already been said, other than it's pretty top tier.
Yep, absolutely shows up in usually a lot of Boros lists, which is roughly tier 1.5 or so, tier 1. So it's doing something right. Number 9 on the list is possibly my least favorite card in all of Pauper, and I'm certain I am not alone here, but it is Stonehorn Dignitary. For a white and 3, you get a 1/4 Rhinoceros Soldier that when Stonehorn Dignitary enters the battlefield, target opponent skips his or her next combat phase.
Yeah, so Stonehorn Dignitary, it to me has maybe like such a cool art for such like a card that just does not give you the same feeling.
Yeah, it's a very yeah, that's a good way to put it. I do love the art on it. The rest of the card can rot.
Yeah, this is probably one of those cards that people hate the most in Pauper. I would say fog effects in general, people tend to really dislike, but especially ones that can be abused with flicker effects of, combat is typically the way people win the game in Pauper.
Yep.
There are a few exceptions. And never ever being able to enter the phase that allows you to win the game.
Yeah, and that's the bad part of it, but it's the extra feel bad. How many times do you enter into combat, you swing in with everybody and they just fog you out and you're like, oh, that's my fault. I ran right into that. But just having that combat phase taken away from you is just a super feel bad. Like no matter what you were gonna do, you have no choice now.
Yeah, I don't know. Even if it's infuriating, though, I think we can both agree it's probably within the top 3 or 4 cards on this list. Same thing as Ephemerate. Actually, Ephemerate is what allows this card to be busted.
Absolutely.
Flicker.
Yeah, you can just stack these up, and I've seen people force their opponent to skip the next 8 combat phases, over the course of 2 turns.
Yeah.
It gets pretty ridiculous. Yeah, it's just one of those cards that doesn't feel like it should be printed at common, if that makes sense. It doesn't feel like common power level.
Yeah, so I don't know. It's one of those things, like, I feel like this card is at common power level in draft formats.
Yeah, okay.
But
yep, I can see
Pauper, like, common power level, probably not. It's
probably not.
Super abusable. People don't.
And it's really, you can even take the worst flicker effect we have. All you need to do is flicker Stonehorn once or twice, and you pretty much won that game, unless they have some sort of non-combat damage way to kill you, which is unlikely.
I agree. And then, I don't know, it's not just this card that's problematic. It's also typically the decks built around it are...
Yeah. There's not very many fair decks that main deck a Stonehorn Dignitary.
Yeah, I don't know. To be honest, I sort of want to get off of the topic. Now that we sort of hated on the card. I think we've hated on it so much that people know how good it is.
Yes, I think that's a very good bar. Yep.
Yeah.
How long did they bitch about it?
Yeah, and the next card is one that I'm not going to complain about at all because I love it. It's our last card on the list. I think you could easily call this one the best one on the list as well, if you didn't think Ephemerate was.
It's certainly one of the best creatures.
Yeah, that is
If not the best.
Thraben Inspector.
Yep.
So one cost a white for a 1/2 human soldier that whenever it ETBs, you investigate, which is create a colorless clue artifact token. Thraben Inspector is a creature that if you're playing a base white deck, you should probably at least consider playing it very strongly. It's pretty ubiquitous across Boros, blue-white decks, mono-white decks, sometimes black-white decks, sometimes Affinity. It just does a little bit of everything, gives you card advantage for later, and it gives you a nice body for 1 mana. Can be abused with things like Core Skyfisher.
Yep. Which is also on the list.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I think Thraben Inspector has a really, really good argument for being the best creature on the list, at least, just because of how ubiquitous it is with the format.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not just pauper that it shows up in either. I know a lot of modern decks run Thraben Inspector as well. It's just a good creature. It's a 1/2, which for a single mana, we're used to getting 1/1s that might ETB into something, but 1/2 is respectable. It gets you the clue token, like you said, that plays nice with Metalcraft, with Affinity, late game card advantage, not even late game necessarily, just card advantage later on down the line. It plays well with all your sort of bounce effects and everything. Yeah, I think you pretty much said it perfectly.
I don't know, there's I think that is our entire list. I'm not sure if you have anything you wanted to add to any of the cards.
No, I think that was pretty much it. It's a nice little succinct top 10 list. We're going to do all the colors in Wooburg order. We're not going to do it every single week, I don't think, but next will be blue. I think that one's going to be the hardest color for me anyway, that one's going to be the hardest color to whittle down just to 10.
I definitely agree. I think there's probably 5 auto includes in blue, and then probably a lot more that take up the last 5 spots.
Right. Yep.
But anyways, normally this is where we do the Q&A, but I forgot to ask this week. I think you also forgot to ask for a question this week.
Sure did.
So with that being said, and without further ado, that's going to do it for this episode of Common Knowledge. If you guys wanted to get in touch with us, you can find me on Twitter at JessGuyDad. Brad, where can they find you?
I am on Twitter at pauper_B or on MTGO at BradDrackV.
Yeah, and then if you wanted to find both of us at the same time, you can comment down below, or you can email us over at commonknowledgemtg@gmail.com. If you guys have any questions on the pauper format, MTGO, or anything else, you can leave a comment down below, or like I said, just email us, get in touch with us on Twitter, however you want. Thanks again to our sponsor Pure MTGO, as well as the Constructed Criticism Network for letting us be a part of it. And last, but certainly not least, thank you for listening. Take very good care of each other.
And never stop brewing.